He paid for her coffee when her card was declined. The morning sun streamed through the large windows of Corner Bean Coffee House, casting warm golden rectangles across the polished hardwood floors. The gentle hum of conversation mixed with the rhythmic whir of espresso machines, creating the kind of comfortable atmosphere that made people want to linger over their morning rituals. Emma stood in line, absently checking her phone while the familiar scents of freshly ground coffee and warm pastries surrounded her. She had discovered this little neighborhood cafe 3 weeks ago, during one of her rare moments of freedom from the corporate world that usually consumed her days. For the past month, Emma had been living what she privately called her experiment. In ordinary, as the CEO of Richardson Industries, she was accustomed to boardrooms and business lunches, to assistants who anticipated her every need and credit cards that never seemed to reach their limits. But lately something had been missing from her carefully orchestrated life, so she had started these morning escapes. She would leave her penthouse apartment dressed simply, carrying only the basics, and walk the 6 blocks to this unpretentious coffee shop where no one knew her name or her net worth. Here she was just another customer in line, just another person seeking the simple comfort of a perfectly brewed cup of coffee. Today, she wore a crisp white button-down shirt and a gray pencil skirt, professional but not ostentatious. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she carried a modest brown leather bag instead of her usual designer purse. The transformation was subtle but complete, and it gave her a sense of freedom she hadn't felt in years. "Next in line, please," called the barista, a young woman with paint-stained fingers who Emma had come to recognize over the past few weeks. Emma stepped forward with a smile. "Good morning, Maya. I'll have my usual medium dark roast with a splash of cream." Maya's face lit up with recognition. "Coming right up. You know, you're one of our most reliable customers. Same time, same order, every day." As Maya prepared her coffee, Emma felt a warm sense of belonging wash over her. This was what she had been missing, genuine human connection without the complications of power dynamics or business agendas. "That'll be for 50, Maya said, sliding the steaming cup across the counter. Emma reached into her bag for her wallet, the one she kept specifically for these morning adventures. It contained a single credit card and a small amount of cash, her way of keeping these moments separate from her complicated financial life. She handed over her card with a confident smile, but that smile faltered when the card reader made an unpleasant beeping sound. "Oh, I'm sorry," Maya said, looking slightly embarrassed. "It says your card was declined. Do you have another form of payment?" Emma stared at the small screen in confusion. She reached for her phone to check her banking app, but then remembered that this particular card was connected to a secondary account she rarely monitored. In her effort to live simply, she had apparently overlooked some very basic details. Heat crept up her neck as she realized she only had $2 in cash. Nowhere near enough for her coffee. The line behind her was growing longer, and she could feel the weight of impatient gazes on her shoulders. "I'm so sorry," Emma began, her voice smaller than usual. "I think there might be an issue with my account. I can come back later." "Or no worries, I've got it." The voice came from directly behind her, deep and calm with a reassuring confidence that made Emma turn around. She found herself looking at a man in a Navy security uniform, his dark hair neatly trimmed and his posture straight with quiet authority. There was something immediately trustworthy about him, something that made her feel safe despite her embarrassment. "You really don't need to," Emma protested, but he was already stepping forward, pulling out his wallet. "It's just coffee," he said with a gentle smile, handing his card to Maya. "And make it a large for her. Looks like she's had a rough morning." Maya processed his payment while Emma stood frozen, unsure how to respond. When was the last time someone had done something kind for her without expecting anything in return? When was the last time someone had rescued her from embarrassment without making her feel smaller in the process? "Thank you," she said quietly, accepting the upgraded coffee from Maya. "That was incredibly kind." "I'm Emma, by the way." "David," he replied, waiting as Maya prepared his own order. "Black coffee, no frills. And don't worry about it, we've all been there." Emma found herself studying his profile as he waited. There was something solid and dependable about him, something that spoke of integrity and genuine character. The security badge on his uniform read Riverside Mall, and she realized he was probably heading to work after his coffee, just like dozens of other people in the cafe. "Let me at least give you my information so I can pay you back," Emma said as they stepped away from the counter together. David shook his head with a smile. "It was $450, not $450. But if it makes you feel better, you can buy me a coffee sometime when your card is working." They walked toward a small table by the window, and Emma found herself hoping he would sit down. She wasn't ready for this interaction to end. Wasn't ready to return to her usual world of calculated conversations and strategic relationships. "Do you have a few minutes?" she asked, gesturing to the empty chairs. "I mean, if you're not rushing off to work, I've got time," David said, settling into the chair across from her. "My shift doesn't start for another 20 minutes, and honestly, this is the most interesting thing that's happened to me all week." Emma laughed softly, surprised by how natural it felt. "Your week must be pretty quiet then." "You'd be surprised," David replied with a grin. Mall security sees its share of drama, but most of it involves teenagers and stolen merchandise, not beautiful women with mysterious credit card problems. Emma felt her cheeks warm at the compliment, delivered so casually and sincerely that she almost believed he meant it purely as an observation. They talked easily as the cafe filled with morning commuters around them. David told her about his job, about the characters he encountered, and the satisfaction he found in helping people solve problems. Emma found herself sharing carefully edited stories about her work life, describing the challenges of leadership without revealing the scope of her responsibilities. "You seem like someone who carries a lot of weight on her shoulders," David observed, studying her face with kind eyes. The comment caught Emma off guard with its accuracy. "What makes you say that?" "Just a feeling. You have this careful way of talking like you're used to every word being analyzed, but when you laugh you look surprised, like you forgot you were allowed to." Emma sat back in her chair, struck by how clearly this stranger seemed to see her. "That's remarkably perceptive." "Occupational hazard," David said with a modest shrug. "You learn to read people when your job is keeping them safe." As their conversation continued, Emma found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't experienced in months. David asked thoughtful questions and listened to her answers with genuine interest. He didn't try to impress her or position himself advantageously. He simply existed in the moment with her, offering his attention as freely as he had offered to pay for her coffee. When David finally had to leave for work, Emma felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. "Thank you again," she said as they stood to go, "for the coffee and for the conversation. Both were exactly what I needed this morning." "Same time tomorrow?" David asked hopefully. "I promise to let you buy your own coffee." Emma smiled, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. "I'll be here, and David, my card will definitely be working." As she watched him walk away, Emma realized that her experiment in ordinary life had yielded something extraordinary, a genuine connection with someone who saw her simply as herself. Tomorrow, she decided she would tell him the truth about who she really was. But for now, she was content to be just Emma, the woman whose credit card had been declined and whose day had been saved by a kind stranger's simple generosity.